Welcome back to this week's episode of the Campfire Series podcast. I'm your host, Logan Soforenko. Very exciting interview today. Broadway actor Jesse J.P. Johnson tells me a little bit about his time in the Broadway world with SpongeBob, Wicked, and more. Let's get to it.
Hello, my name is Jesse J.P. Johnson. I'm originally from Denver, Colorado. Came to the city a long time ago. I started doing theater since I was 3. I was a crazy child, so my parents put me in a lot of different things as an outlet, and theater kind of stuck. Went to performing arts high school, then I graduated early at the age of 17, went out to New York. I auditioned for colleges, didn't get into the ones that I wanted to get into. So while I was out in New York auditioning for colleges, I auditioned for a couple non-equity tours, and I landed Grease, the non-equity tour of Grease with Frankie Avalon as our teen angel. Pretty wild, pretty amazing experience. That was kind of my college. I did Oklahoma non-equity tour right after that, and then in the process of auditioning for the first time they put out Hairspray on tour, I auditioned for Altar Boys, and I got Altar Boys, the first national, and that's how I got my equity card. And that's where I met Nick Blameyer, who was the writer of the music for Glory Days, and got Glory Days. That was my first Broadway show. Yeah, and then I've been kind of nonstop since then. It was really nice. It's always a very hard job being an actor, trying to put yourself on play all the time, and you're kind of your own advocate unless you have a really good agent, which even then they don't really, they have so many different other people. So kind of manage yourself. And, since then I was in and out of Wicked. I played Bach on Broadway, was in the national tour of Wicked as Bach, started in the ensemble and worked my way up. That was kind of a dream, that 42nd Street kind of dream of mine, of working really hard and then becoming the lead finally. I did Xanadu on Broadway for a hot minute, and also SpongeBob SquarePants. And I was a swing dance captain. I covered SpongeBob, Mr. Krabs, everybody. So it's been a wild ride. And now I have had a year of nothing, which has actually been really nice to kind of collect myself and take care of myself mentally, physically. And haven't really had a chance to do that. So it's been, as hard as it's been being in quarantine, it's actually been a blessing in disguise.
I think that's, nice way of putting it. It really is. But you said you were in Xanadu. I think it's one of the most underrated shows, just in general on the stage. Xanadu was a really, really fun show. And tell me a little bit about your time with Xanadu. How did casting go, and a little bit about the process?
Yeah, actually, I would have to agree with you. Very underrated. I actually kind of refused to see the show. I heard some people were obsessed with it and some people didn't like it at all. And with those kind of reviews, I usually am like, well, maybe I should save my money. If I get a ticket, it'd be great. But otherwise, I'll spend my money on something else. And then I got the audition for the show. It was a fun audition. I was really young, so any audition was super fun for me. I mean, it was easy to kind of get the competition out of my head and just be like, I'm here auditioning, I can't believe it. So we did, there was maybe 20, 30 guys. It was for one role. It was for the understudy of Sunny, and for Talia, in the ensemble. And we did tap, we did hip hop, we did jazz, we did all of those things. They would make us they'd form a circle and then have us do the tap solo that Talia does. Is the younger version of the dad, and they would have us do one by one. And somehow through all of that, I got the part. which was, it was really amazing. I mean, the show, and then I got to see the show. I got to, they obviously gave me a ticket. I met the cast. Everyone was, it was a very positive vibe, really creative, a lot of fun, very kooky characters. So that, even though it was very, short time, maybe about a month before it closed, I got the part. Um, it definitely was kind of the biggest whirlwind and kind of the most memorable in that sense.
Well, congratulations on that. I know 30 people doing everything individually. I know that isn't easy at all. But with
Yeah,
that being
yeah.
said, you said you were kind of in and out doing Bach on Broadway and Wicked in one of the most uh, iconic musicals. Tell us a little bit about that.
I auditioned for that show kind of ever since I came to the city. They had me audition for every single part in the show, for the ensemble, for Bach. At one point, they brought me in for Fiero. Then after learning my height, they're like, wait, how tall actually are you?" I was like, "Tall enough. I'm tall enough."
How tall are you? Now I'm curious.
5'8". If I want to be taller, I wear taller shoes and say I'm 5'9". And if I want to be shorter, I wear, like Converse and say I'm 5'7".
Vans.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
So it's,
sure.
it just all depends. For the role too, it's like conditioning my body. Like if I want to seem smaller, I try to lose weight and not, work out as much. And or if I want to seem bigger and more mature. It's a hard thing being like such a like in between like height and like character wise. It's very interesting. It's like constant reinventing yourself, because I played Luke in Altar Boys, who is kind of like the bad boy druggy, like Marky Mark type of character. And then all of a sudden I'm going in for the Munchkin and Wicked, which was in fact like probably it was a dream role of mine. So that's something like I said, I had auditioned for 8 years before I even got into the show, and then even
Wow.
then was an understudy. So I mean, it was in general like it sucked to like keep hearing no from the show that you've always wanted to be in, but it's humbling, and it also made me work harder, and brought me to a point where when I did get the show, it was like right at the time for me personally. So
Yeah, for sure. And also with Wicked, I assume the fan base has to be uh pretty passionate about it. And a big part of being a performer on Broadway is obviously the stage door experience. Who knows if we'll even get that, when we come back, just because of
yeah,
safety
oh
stuff.
yeah.
But what were some, this is a very weird question, but what were some stage door memories that stuck out with you?
uh you know it's always the kids, first of all, like first and foremost, like tiny little kids who are either aspiring actors or just like who are in awe of the magic of theater. You come out and they all of a sudden, like, their mother will be like, "That's the guy who played Bach," and a little girl or a little boy will be like, "Oh my gosh," and seeing in their face like that admiration, it gives you the realization of like, why you do what you do, because I once was that kid looking up to the actor coming out of the stage door and getting the signatures. And so that part was always um kind of the best part. And of course, people who kept coming back. I mean, the fans for that show, it brings a certain type of people. It's like theater people in general are weirdos anyway, or comedians, people who perform, usually were outcasts, and that the reason why they do perform is because it gives them a sense of family and a sense of security. So for fans as well, it's like that show speaks to them in such a profound way, especially with Wicked, because it's about bullying and overcoming your adversities. So it, as some people can be super crazy, but for the most part, it's just always so wonderful to like have that support, because it gives you kind of a boost and that energy to like stick to it, because being in theater is a hard business. So having those fans, those people who recognize your talent and your hard work. It's like that's the icing on the cake, but also helps the foundation of like what you're doing and solidifying that like this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, especially the message that you talked about, that Wicked had. When I first saw Wicked, it was in middle school, and middle school is just
Yeah.
that time where you just everyone is bullied at least once. So
Yeah.
Wicked really stuck out to me, and I saw it 2 times during high school, and it's an awesome show. But congrats on playing such an iconic part and being a part of that.
Dang.
But also a thing that I got for my 16th birthday, I got to go see SpongeBob. We
Oh dang.
my family, what happened was they had the choice to buy tickets to one show, and the other 2 nights we were going to do lotteries and rush shows because Broadway ain't cheap, or Broadway yeah. So we saw,
No, it's not cheap at all.
they picked SpongeBob, and I was like, really,
Oh,
SpongeBob? And I came in, I was like, this show is so awesome. You know what I mean? Like, it was
yeah.
such an awesome show. And you got to cover, SpongeBob himself, obviously working with Ethan and working with that awesome cast. I was watching the show and I started like pointing out cast members that I recognized, I was like, Lily was in Wicked and Gavin was in Mary Poppins. I
Yeah.
was like, this is pretty cool. So what was it like?
Yeah.
What was first of all, before we talk about the journey with SpongeBob, but what was the audition process like for this new did you do the pre-Broadway run, or what was that all that part like?
Yeah, I did the pre-Broadway one, the show we did in Chicago. I kind of came in later in the game. I did Altar Boys with the choreographers Chris Catelli and Lou Castro, and so I don't know if it was that they recommended that I come in or if it just so happened that I was in the room as well, but they brought me in. They were looking for, I think they were looking mostly for like swing types and certain parts to plug into the ensemble, because they had already casted the show through the various years and years of workshops and readings that they've done. So I was lucky enough to go in. I was super sick too when right when I went in. I woke up like that morning with a fever, and I wasn't gonna go because I was like, I don't know what, I mean, right now hearing that is like terrifying because of Corona, but it was just like a little flu that I had, and I took my meds and I went in, and I was like kind of there and half not there, which I think afterwards I was like really bummed because I was like, I wasn't able to like be my full authentic self, because I was just thinking in my head like, don't let the Sudafed set in and show that you're sick. So again, it was very similar to a lot of the auditions that I've done, like Xanadu, like I talked about, but it was a very long day. So it was about a 6-hour day. They brought us in, taught us all this different choreography. Tina Landau was there. She did like theater games with us. She's like very big on theater games and kind of getting to know your creative self. And that was like a big part of her casting, especially because she wanted to make sure that she had the right type of weirdo in the show, but also people who were very in tune to their creativity and in tune to themselves. So that process was a lot of that kind of back and forth, from having to do choreography to showing tricks. I brought my skateboard, so we had to show tricks on our skateboard, or if we could roller skate, and then do certain like improv games and stuff. So and then after that, they brought me back in to read for SpongeBob and to read for other different characters and kind of see where I sit with that, and had me sing, and then I got the call. But I was obsessed with SpongeBob as a kid. Like when it first came out, I was in high school, I think, or middle school. And I just remember seeing like the character of SpongeBob so positive and like silly and crazy. And I identified with that because I was always like the kind of like happy-go-lucky kid in school. I got picked on a lot, but I used that type of personality, that goofy, happy-go-lucky, like everything's okay kind of personality, to kind of as a facade, basically, to kind of stick up for myself and have the courage. So when I got the call for the audition, I was like, hell yes, this is exactly what I want to be doing. Like I first heard they were doing it, and I was so jealous of all the people and my friends who were, a part of the workshops and stuff. And when I finally got the call, I was like, I have to get this. This is it. This is my thing. So
It's real interesting hearing that Tina made you guys do improv games.
yeah.
There's always that. I like to put it this way. There's always that theater class you take in high school or college that you got the students that want to do theater. Then you got like that 5%
Mhm.
that come in and say, I need an elective, I need the credits, but they're like,
Yeah.
improv games are fun for them. So I think that's super
Yeah.
cool. But with that being said, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I have to admit, and hopefully people take this with a grain of salt, but I used to hate like improv games,
Yeah.
like theater games. Like, give me a script. I was very dyslexic as a kid as well, so speaking in general and having to say something at the top of my head was terrifying to me, because I would stutter, I would stumble on my words, I couldn't quite get anything out, and so there's always like a big fear of that. And I do have to say, SpongeBob, like being in those rooms and being a part of that community in general was kind of got me out of that shell a little bit, and like that stigma of like, oh God, this again.
Did you ever go on as SpongeBob?
I did. I went on like 4 times. It was the best. Obviously, you could tell, like every time I talk about it, it's going back to that moment. It was like, I mean, it's a dream role. It's nothing can top that going on for that role. It's like it was the best.
How walk me through it a little bit because it looks so demanding and just physically just insane. So walk me through.
Yeah.
I don't like how in the let's say it's the day of your performance. Do you know?
Hmm.
I don't really know how the swing work went and like how when you find out the call and all that stuff. So the day of your performance, walk me through it.
Hmm.
When did you find out? How did your preparation go? And how was it different than your typical track?
So I wasn't the on stage understudy. I was like so I was basically kind of secondary understudy. Curtis Holbrook was first. He was in the ensemble. So I went on first, and I knew I was going on because Ethan was on vacation, and had some days off. So that's when I knew it wasn't a surprise. So I already had a build up to it, but also being a swing and assistant dance captain, I had to know the show in and out, every character anyway. And I really studied. I was admired Ethan for all of his skill, and really kind of studied what he did, and wanted to do, because I was understudying, as like I want to, kind of be up in par with that. I want to be able to live up to that kind of level that Ethan gave every night. And so, yeah, so the preparation, it was easy because I knew, and I also knew the part so well. Um, and believe it or not, the ensemble tracks to me were a lot harder than SpongeBob, to be honest. Um, Mainly because you're changing costumes constantly. You're like running. It's like a marathon. Like being in the ensemble, well, being any role in that show, you don't get a time to breathe at all. Um, but at least with SpongeBob, I was able to play one character, be in one set of clothes. I knew where I was going off. I had somebody with me the whole time, a dresser with me the whole time. I had, so it was like really the focus was easy because, that's all I got to focus on. Whereas, being in the ensemble or a swing, I have 12, 14 tracks I could be doing at any given time, sometimes 2 tracks in the same show. So, you know.
Walk me through the difference. You said you did tours. The difference
Okay.
in performing constantly on the road as opposed to, you did your Broadway shows, you're in the same place, 8 times a week. So walk me through like the differences as a performer physically and mentally, like how do we prepare for, hey, I'm staying in the same place for a good chunk of time. And then
Right.
as opposed to, I don't know, typically non-equity tours, from my knowledge, they go short stints and pretty like off around the country. So tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
Uh, so I'm glad I had the experience of doing non-equity tours. It's not for everyone. It's a very, very, very hard. I mean, I think it's the hardest uh, thing to do in our business because yes, it's usually bus and truck. They don't have the money to fly everyone everywhere or the time because a lot of times you're in one place. Like you're in one city and then you have to get on the bus right after the show, sleep on the bus, and then you're in another town the next day. Sometimes that goes on for like 3 weeks straight, and then you get like 2 days in a city or 1 week in a city. So if it's very hard work. And I was very lucky to be able to do it at a young age because I had the stamina and I had the energy. And I was, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, wanting to learn, wanting to be a professional. So that work then, although it was hard, was very beneficial to where I, got to later on in my career. But it's a hard life being on tour than being in one place, especially if you have a loved one at home. You're constantly like, it's a long distance relationship. If you have a house, if you're, renting, all the adult things. As you get older, it's hard. When you're young, single, it is the best time in the world. You get to experience different cities. And I've been to every city in the US and Canada basically more than once. So 6 different tours and all of that time. Wicked was the easiest because we had usually a month in every city, sometimes two. So, and then 2 days in between each city. So I drove and got to drive with my dog and kind of had that experience was a lot easier and a lot more it was more fun, and I was able to kind of ease into it and settle into that experience a lot easier than others. But I recommend I'd rather stay put in one city at this point now. I mean, it's easier, and I have the fiance and 2 dogs and a house now, and I'm an old man.
Well, congratulations on that. I'm sorry COVID had to happen. I don't know the whole timeline of all that stuff, but congratulations
Yeah,
on, that endeavor. And hopefully that'll be, safe and soon, whenever that may be. But
yeah.
before we wrap up, I ask you like your parting advice, but I want to hear being in New York year round. You go through the
Hmm.
cold, you go through the basic weather, then you go to the humidity, and then you go through the sweat. So how demanding is that on, your instrument, your voice, and preparing for that? Does that play a factor at all?
Well, I'm originally from Denver, so getting all the seasons, it's a little bit different in New York because you're closer to the water. It's that the New York cold is a different beast in itself. Um, I'm used to taking care of myself very well. Uh, I was kind of a sick child growing up. I had like really bad asthma, so I knew already how to take care of myself when I was feeling bad, how to take care of my voice, all of those tricks. And I was in a lot of professional shows prior to coming to the city that I had, kind of that experience and that knowledge from a lot of the actors that I worked with. So, New York is its own beast. And I think if you're from a small town, the biggest thing that you're going to have when you get to New York is just navigating the amount of people, the energy, the transportation. Like all of that is something I think that is more important to get a grip on first, to kind of find your roots and your ground before I think diving into your profession. Because if you can't get New York down, then it's going to be hard to to get everything else. down. I still don't have, it's been like, you know, off the record, it's been like 16 years that I have been in the city. So, you know, even there's still some surprises that I have. And, you know, even in the pandemic, being in a city that's so in tune with each other, you know, all of a sudden having this thing come to us and messing everything up in a way, seeing that rhythm get off is like, that part was like hard for me, I think the most, because you know I can stay inside, I can take care of myself and make sure that I am safe and everyone else is safe, but having to rely on the city for so long and then not having that, and you know the rhythm of everybody else is knocked off, it's wild, it's crazy.
And especially the theater district, that's, that
Yeah,
area of Times
yeah,
Square, that's pure tourism right there. So,
yeah, it's insane, it's a ghost town right now.
oh my, is it? I hope things are, doing well over there. That I guarantee you they're better than where I'm at right now. I'm in Los Angeles, so that gets,
Oh man,
yeah,
my brother's out there.
it is, it's,
Yeah,
he could probably vouch for you. It is insane out here.
yeah, yeah,
But
at least you get the sun and the weather.
exactly, the way that you see it on the headlines, it sounds bad, but if you're doing your part and staying inside, it's fun.
Uh-huh.
It's fun. You take
Yeah.
your every now and then walks, and
Yeah.
I haven't been to Trader Joe's in a month and a half, which I'm a little sad about, but
I know, I know, I know. Out here. We moved out to Long Island to kind of have more space. Brooklyn wasn't really working with an 8th floor walk up and with a new
oh,
puppy. So we had, yes, we were one of those people who got a puppy during a pandemic, but
no, that's not a
you
bad thing
know,
at all.
I had a dog that passed away like right before, or
Oh,
like right when the pandemic happened. So it was kind of more or less like that emotional support that we
right,
needed back
right.
with us. So but no, we got out, and I'm close to the city. I'm not that far. I have a car, so it's I having this kind of sense of normalcy in a way. And out here it's not as bad. You can go to the grocery store with a mask on and still be safe and social distance. Whereas in New York, I didn't feel like I had that. It was, it's still a little chaotic
Hmm.
in that sense. So it's nice having to having some space for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. Before last thing I want to ask is, some advice you can give to performers. You got a lot of knowledge, you got a lot of experience, under your belt, and there's a lot of people, out here that are eager to, learn,
Yeah,
because that's all we can do right now is listen and learn. I did a production of Lear, of King Lear
nice.
over Zoom,
Oh
and
dang.
we learn, and it is as much as I wanted to not wake up and keep my head in the pillows the whole day.
Yeah, I know. It's
There's
hard.
these things that we learn, and I find that you said this is a blessing in disguise. So give us a little bit of advice, for young aspiring performers.
I've I thought about this the first day that I ever started auditioning and pursuing theater in New York, and kind of what I would say when I was older to aspiring actors. I mean, for me, it's every day is a challenge. Just being a human. I would say the biggest advice that I have is just take care of yourself the most. And a lot of times you will be alone. You are your own advocate in a lot of ways. You have to, you're the only one except for, your agent at times to promote yourself and to be your cheerleader. And, it's keeping that drive, keeping that positivity, keeping all of your stuff, kind of all the stuff that you have at home that all of the negative stuff at home, kind of bring it with you to with experience. And but I don't know, to be honest with you. It's I'm trying to like think of a smart thing to say, but if anything, it's just, if you want to do it and you love it, keep doing it, keep loving it. And there are times that I have done things and went to auditions or did shows where I wasn't loving it, and you can tell people around me could tell. And at that point it was like, okay, do I still want to do this or do I not? But it's got to keep that drive, got to keep that passion alive within you, and take care of yourself mentally, physically. Find a family, find people to connect with. Always have those conversations. Um, but really, it's just be true to yourself, and try to just like live the life you want to live, rather than um, what you think others should, the way that you think others would want you to live, I guess.